The United Methodist Church traces its roots back to the 1700s and the leadership of British evangelist John Wesley. Wesley and the early Methodists placed primary emphasis on Christian living, putting faith and love into action, or practical divinity. Unlike the Catholic Church, which has an individual executive who dictates policy, the UMC's authority is with a global legislative body. The General Conference is made up of clergy and laity and meets every 4 years. In 1984, the General Conference added to its Book of Discipline the statement that, quote, "No self-avowed practicing homosexual shall be ordained or appointed in the United Methodist Church," end quote. And in 1996, a policy forbidding any same-sex commitment ceremonies to be celebrated in the United Methodist churches or by United Methodist pastors was adopted. With society accepting and more UMC clergy accepting the LGBTQ community, many believe anti-homosexuality policies would be removed from the Book of Discipline at the General Conference in 2012. But after much debate, removing the policies was voted down. Even a proposal to replace the policy with a statement noting the disagreement was voted down.
It was that 2012 General Conference that was galvanizing for me, because I had lived with the, comforting illusion that the church was going to change with time, and history would change our attitudes, but it did not happen. And it became very clear at that conference, when the vote was 61 to 39%, that the church had actually hardened on this issue.
The debate is not only dividing the church according to the Public Religion Research Institute survey, it is also causing the UMC to lose members, especially millennials.
If we can't get clear and give a clear message to the world around us that the church is open to all people, then people are going to continue to not want to have anything to do with us.
The failure to change the Book of Discipline also emboldened many pastors to officiate at same-sex marriages.
This is a new covenant.
Protests erupted in 2013 when Reverend Frank Schaeffer of Pennsylvania was put on trial within the church for officiating at his gay son's wedding. He was found guilty, lost his ministerial credentials and his congregation.
It is such a joy and an honor to be back in my home church.
Although Reverend Schaeffer was later reinstated, other pastors are facing charges and trials for officiating at same-sex weddings and being openly gay. Reverend Benjamin Hutchison, an openly gay African Methodist Episcopal pastor, was forced to resign from his church because of his relationship with his spouse.
Those who God and the law appoint together, let no one put asunder.
The week after his resignation, he married his partner with support from local UMC clergy, 9 of whom had complaints filed against them for co-presiding at the wedding. Reverend John Copenhaver decided to go public in 2013 with his opposition to the church's policies on same-sex marriage, and encouraged others in the Virginia Conference to follow. A year later, he took a riskier step, officiating at his friends' and colleagues' same-sex wedding.
There was risk in the sense that I was going against friends and colleagues in the Virginia Conference, and it was the first person in the Southeast jurisdiction, as far as I know, to challenge the church's teaching on that.
It was very important to me that we would be married under God, so to speak, that we would be married in a religious and civil ceremony. Sarah and I work in ministry together. It's at the core of what we do, and so it seemed silly to go to a justice of the peace.
But it was their circumstance that pushed John to defy the church.
My sister was murdered back in September of 2014. Her 3 children would have been separated into different homes. There wasn't another place for them to go. The state of Virginia had made it very clear that two people who are cohabiting and not married would not be able to foster or kinship care their children of interest.
John was thrilled he could help Sarah and DeLynn.
Initially, I was elated. I was so thrilled because, we'd broken through a lot of barriers. I had been preparing myself for this. The next day, though, when I called my district superintendent, it was a sobering moment because he did feel that I had broken covenant with the church, which to me is a very painful statement to make, a charge to make, that I had broken covenant with the church. At the time, it was painful to hear.
A complaint was filed against John. After months of negotiations, he was suspended for 3 months.
My argument later on was that I had not broken covenant with the church, that it was the United Methodist Church that taught me to resist evil, injustice, and oppression in whatever forms they present themselves.
We're both grateful for people like John who are willing to do the right thing, no matter what the consequences are, because the consequences could be very harsh, and he was willing to accept those consequences. And so I'm grateful, and I would assume that you are as well.
Sarah and DeLynn are now able to have all 3 children in their care.